like to call to order the Charter Township of Chesterfield regular Township Board meeting for Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. to order. Could we all please face the flag and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, roll call. Treasurer Elliott is at a conference this weekend. She may be excused. Clerk Berry?
Supervisor Kirsten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott is excused. Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Hornberger. Here. Trustee Vosberg. Here. Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item 10A.
Supervisor Kirsten will support that. And the justification for removing that is, Clerk Berry, do you want to address it? Or?
The agenda item was presented 2 meetings ago and postponed until this meeting, so it had to remain on the agenda. However, the supporting material for an amended item is still in progress.
And just to follow up on that, this does require an ordinance amendment, which is still being worked on, and then the obviously restructuring and the presentation of such. So we'll bring it back on the August 12th meeting. And that is item, with the exception of item 10A, correct? Correct, 10A. So there's a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Supervisor Kirsten, to approve the agenda as written with the removal of item 10A. Clerk Berry?
Clerk Berry, aye. Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
No.
Again, just for the residents that did come for the water rate, August 12th. Come on back here on August 12th and we'll have a full presentation for you. Sorry for the inconvenience. Item 5, presentations. There are no presentations scheduled tonight. Item 6, department reports. We will start out with Parks and Rec. Michelle Vanderson.
Good evening. As we celebrate July as National Parks and Rec Month, I do want to take the opportunity to thank our staff on all levels. This formal recognition and commend the dedicated staff of the Chesterfield Township Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Department is very important for us to do this month, along with every month that we have. Their commitment to serving our community and providing exceptional programs ensures that our parks and events remain a source of pride for our residents. With the acknowledgement of the Township Board, July offers a fitting occasion to shine a light on our employees and the impact that they make daily. We always appreciate the guests who share their experience with us. And so in one particular one, I'd like to highlight that was an email following their park rental. In their words, in their email, we want to share with everyone in your department what a pleasant experience it was working with you on our party yesterday to celebrate our granddaughter's first birthday. Planning the rental process with department office staff ahead of time went so smooth. My husband and I visited the park ahead of time to gather information on the logistics of how we were going to transport our supplies for the event to our pavilion. Park staff were so helpful for our planning. As far as the day of the party, we cannot say enough about the willingness, cooperation, friendliness, and complete assistance that we were given. This shows just one example of something that we often hear in our department, and our staff's commitment in all levels of customer interactions, both full-time, part-time, and our seasonal staff. So on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department, I extend my gratitude to our staff and also to the residents of Chesterfield Township for their continued support and involvement. Together, we'll celebrate the importance of Parks and Recreation in strengthening our community and improving the overall well-being to our residents. I also want to take an opportunity to share one way that you can support our department and come visit us out at Brandenburg Park. In 2 weeks, we'll be hosting the Cheers to Chesterfield Festival, featuring the Bassmaster Elite Fishing Tournament. Our team has been working incredibly hard for this 4-day experience for our community. August 7th through the 10th, you'll find the nationally televised fishing tournament along with a full list of activities. If you set your alarm early enough, you'll be able to join us for one of my favorite parts, which is the takeoff of the bass boats at 7 a.m. That happens each day as they narrow down the field for the fishermen, finale being on Sunday, August 10th. While they're out on the lake and into the evening, Brandenburg Park will be filled with kids' music, live animals, food trucks, evening concerts, and beer service. Friday features an adult cornhole tournament and hopefully a fireworks display. Saturday, kids will have their chance at fishing fun with a pier fishing tournament at 12 o'clock. Please join us in enjoying our beautiful park and our wonderful community at this event. More information can be found on the Township's Facebook page. If you search for Chesterfield Township, Michigan, you'll be able to find the Cheers to Chesterfield event to keep up to date on all the key features. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Mason, all yours.
Good evening. Just want to provide a few updates from the Elections Department. First, I want to thank the board majority for approving our item at the July 8th meeting for the laptops. This is critical infrastructure for what we do, and it is much appreciated. Today, I met with the city clerk of Sterling Heights, which is Melanie Riska, and the sounds from the state legislature is new promulgated rules will be coming out that the software will be going live. So this is a meaningful investment for that. So we have future-proofed ourselves, so thank you. Next, the ADA grant that I alluded to last meeting, we did apply for on July 14th, and it was signaled by our organization that it is approved. The funds are coming from MEDC, so we are hopeful that we will receive those by the end of the month. The money is going to be earmarked for automatic door openers here at the community center. We've been working with facilities and operations to get quotes. This item will come as an agenda request at one of the August meetings. We do have to follow local purchasing policy. This is over $5,000, so it will be coming to the board for consideration. However, I do want to preface, we will have received the money prior to the initial work that will be completed, so there won't be anything that needs to be earmarked because the funds will have been received. Additionally, we are using PTO within our office to go work at other offices in August and November to see their election operations. We're trying to identify best practices, efficiencies. With that in mind, I'll be working in Sterling Heights, and 2 of our clerical staff will be working in Clinton Township and Macomb. So we're hoping to bring back some practices here that we can help make use of to make our operation more streamlined and hone in on our craft. And then lastly, voter ID cards were sent out to constituents in precincts 9 and 10. Those voters were moved from Higgins Elementary to Lance Cruz Middle School. We have gotten calls regarding the signature line on the voter ID cards. The signature line is no longer needed, as any Secretary of State branch office transaction gets a digitalized signature. That was a historic practice that we used to do, so we would have multiple means of signature adjudication. So if you get asked by any of the qualified electors in the township about that, that is simply just a change in the law. We have the signatures still on file. They're just digital from the Secretary of State branch office transaction when you get a driver's license, ID card, things of that sort. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sonnenberg, it's all yours.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a quick update on a couple of our projects. This being the first one you can see in front of you. This is our Brandenburg Park. We recently are seal coating and striping the parking lot. I just wanted to share with everybody that the first phase, the area you can see in black, was finished today. The second phase, you can see where the boaters park on the right. That'll be worked on over the next 2 days. The goal is to finish this project before the weekend. We've had good weather, so it looks like we'll be on schedule. So we appreciate and apologize for any inconvenience. I know sometimes it's a little bit longer walk in the parking lot, but we're doing the best we can to get this done fast, and thankfully the weather's been cooperating. So as we look at this picture at Brandenburg Park, if you look down to the bottom of this photo, you'll see in this next photo across the street, if some of you recognize there's a new sign that calls out a new pathway. You'll see where that red arrow is in the lower left corner. That's where our contractor and our staff started cutting the path this week. That actual path, you can see the parcel up to the left is our Salt River Nature Preserve, and the new parcel in the yellow in the middle is our new piece of property that we recently acquired. That white line represents the path they cut this week. It's a half-mile path that goes from across the street from Brandenburg up into our existing Salt River Nature Center trails. So we're super excited. This will be an ongoing effort over the next 2 weeks to really open this path up, and we'll have some tree work, but we look forward to putting some signage up and getting people in there and let them explore. It's a great parcel of property. On that same note, more pathway project over at our municipal office, which you can see is that building in that area to the left. That orangish piece of property is a piece of property that we recently acquired. You'll see that white line that's kind of meandering through. Today, we cut the path from the municipal side to the creek, and then from the subdivision side to the creek. You are able to walk down that path. Unfortunately, we are working for a bridge crossing. We'll be talking about that more in the near future, but we're excited about that path. It gives the opportunity for those residents over to the left to have access to our pathway network at the municipal office. This next quick update is the pedestrian bridge over at the Historic Society. We're wrapping that bridge up. As you can tell, it's kind of a more modern cable rail system, so that's being completed. Over at our police department, we're wrapping up that project. We're in the final phases. You can see that the letters will start going up on the building, so some much-needed branding will go up. You'll see the police letters up on that blue vertical. Those are backlit at night, and they're really visible from Town Center Drive. And then where you see that blue arch over to the right, there's large Chesterfield letters that are also backlit. So that will finish up the outside of the building in those areas. Also at the police department, we've done a lot of work on the entryway. We had some concrete issues, some water shedding issues, so we redid our approach and then the sidewalks at the front of the building and in and around the gates. That, we apologize about the inconvenience, have been closed with the concrete cured and that approach for the last 7 days. We plan on opening up that this weekend. Lastly, this is our Township Board room, and we are happy to announce that we will be moving back on August 26th. Our carpet is in. We'll be conducting training for board staff and board members over the next couple weeks going into August for our return date scheduled August 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll bring up the board and department reports from the electeds. Clerk Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The clerk's office is currently coordinating with all of our department heads at this time to schedule their annual records training. We will be coordinating with Chris Anderson of our legal team to give them training on Freedom of Information Act requests, as well as managing records and legal holds as well. So that's very important for us. We've had a lot of turnover here, which shows that we are growing and we have a lot of new faces, and so it's important that all of them know how to properly manage the records that they are creating and handling every day, and that will be something that all of them will also have included in their personnel files so that we can keep track of all of those proper records management policies, trainings, and we will have everyone fully up to date on any changes to the law. Thank you.
Anyone else? Trustee Hornberg, please.
So last August of '24, the board voted on a resolution to partner with the Macomb County Public Art Program for a DIA grant, and we're going to have a mural put up at no cost to the township in front of the fire station on 23 Mile. So the site is, I believe, being prepped right now. The township is doing the prep, power washing and priming, but other than that, there's no cost to the township, and the artist will begin her work on August 11th, and I believe it should take about a week, maybe a few extra days, but about a week. So look for that when you're out in that area. Coming soon.
Thank you. Seeing nothing further? Nothing further? I'll move on to item 7, public comments. Public comments on, excuse me, agenda items only. There is a 3-minute time limit. If you would, please state your name. And again, it's in regards to agenda item only. Mic is open. Public comments. Public comments. Public comments.
Paul LaFata, Chesterfield Township. There's something wrong with the agenda because what got postponed on the 24th was all the fixed costs not the pass-through water and sewer rates. I checked the agenda again this morning. It didn't have the same verbiage on it as it does this afternoon. So I guess we're not going to be talking about water and sewer rates. So let's talk about water and sewer. We have a construction project from AEW for 21 Mile Road, and we have construction administration for $11,548. We should have competent people in our water and sewer department, especially with a new finance director, that should be able to do construction administration. It's $11,500 that we're spending that isn't necessary. Then there's the risk analysis that I don't think was done, because we have a contingency of 10%. Industry norm for civil projects, water, sewer, roads, is 5 to 10%. And that's based on a risk analysis. And the highest part of the risk analysis is the engineering and design, which AEW is going to provide us. So I don't know why every time, and I'm sure there's a risk analysis, somebody can pull out of the drawer or their pocket to show us, but you wonder why water and sewer has an issue. This is one of them. I've been in engineering for 37 years, and you don't run a project like this, you don't quote a project like this, and your risk is based on your design. You have a good design, you have a good product, you don't have cost overruns. It looks like all we try to do is push something in front of somebody and just spend more dollars. And the residents want to know why you're going to raise the water and sewer rates. This is one of the reasons. We don't do our job up front, and we just waste money. Thank you.
Joe Kadich, I live on Sutton. Basically, I was prepared to talk about the water and sewer rate, but you pulled it for the menu, or for the agenda. I had some questions. Now that you pulled it, and are preparing to, what is it, coming back on August the 12th, I suggest you do what Lovelock did back about 10 years ago, when he had the engineering study show up that
Excuse me,
basically
who?
they wanted to have
Who did you say?
Lovelock.
Really?
Basically, what it led to is he had a study done by AEW. It came out that they wanted to increase the rates for 4 years from 20 to 25% per year. He knew that was wrong. So he opened up to the public. He had a meeting, let everybody look at how the study was done and what was in it. And based on that, that's where he came up with the idea of having a committee of citizens to have the water review board. And from that, we developed all this, what the rates should be and how they should be calculated and what counted. Now, with this going on, we had issues with you in the past trying to find out what happened to about $12 million over the last 4 years. And all this thing is do is seem to cover it up and add more costs to us. I would suggest that you, next meeting, if nothing else, if you don't have a meeting showing all of the results and questioning what the study showed, at least have a public meeting where people can ask questions and don't limit it to 3 minutes. You got a big head coming to this community for this water rate you're looking at. It's not justified. I suggest you do something different when you present it. Have the people look at it, have somebody question it, and answer us. The other thing that got brought out was on the discussion over priority, which is another problem we've got here. I personally have not had a problem with priority. A lot of people have. But this all stems back from the fact when we had Green for Life, and they came to you early, and you signed off on a 3-year or 5-year contract early without going out for any bids. You didn't present it to the people. You just signed it, and we got hooked for it. And as a consequence, when they sold it, we got hooked with priority. Had you gone out for bid, maybe Green for Life wouldn't have gotten it, and we wouldn't get stuck for priority, and you may have somebody else that's still in business. This is all back to you. And I don't see anybody saying, I'm sorry, I'll do it differently next time. But you hooked us up for what, $15 million to $18 million? It's not coming out of the budget, your budget. It's we got to pay it out of our pocket. And we had no say, and you had no answer to give us. You just said, here, take it. Thank you.
Janice Young. I think most of us were prepared to talk about the water and sewer, so we obviously can't talk about that now. It's not on the agenda, but I would like to request that the township put on the website the past water rate study and the current one. There's nothing available for the residents to look at. What was in the last agenda packet is it. So I think that information should be on there. I looked at some other communities and they provide that information. I don't know why we're so, the lack of transparency here is, I guess, just abundant, and it's just not right. On the priority, Sterling Heights, I just read, fined them $48,000 for their default of service. I also, from what I understand though, they have like multiple employees it takes to monitor that and track it and to figure that out. So that's an additional cost they're incurring. I don't know if those are facts, but that's what I've heard. Harrison Township, their contract was up with them, so they got to go with Tringali, who is a local guy for them, and he's able to take care of their size of their community. Macomb Township, I actually watched I think it was their last board meeting, which by the way was quite pleasant. They all seemed to get along with each other. There was no animosity, no one picking fights with each other. They seemed to be just joking around. It was generally an enjoyable meeting, and they discussed the trash. It was a pretty hot topic, and there was nobody that was upset and obscene, and they just really knew how to answer questions to the residents, and they were calling them to a meeting priority. They were calling them up too. They were trying to collaborate and figure it out as well. Maybe you guys could get with Viviano and figure out what they're doing and team up with them and maybe have them take the lead for the county. I don't know, just some thoughts. On the water thing though, real quick, I did try to get Appendix A for the non-residential costs. I got some agenda item from 2020 that was unapproved, unsigned, redlined. I don't know if that's why it's getting delayed today because you guys can't find Appendix A, but that seems like there's a problem with that you're trying to push this on us when you have missing data. So I put my FOIA request in, which has of course been extended. So we'll see what you guys come up with when that deadline comes. On the bill run, the summer tax bill, we pay $13,000 to have a company mail this out. It's printed in color, $13,000 for our summer tax bill to be mailed. There's some charges, not a lot. Facebook ads, $54 for the Cheers to Chesterfield. I didn't see anything to cover the cost of advertising the water rate increase and getting information out to the residents. Trash pickup sticks for F&O department, $73. I just want to know how many did you get for that price. Menards has them for $9 a piece. You should have gotten quite a few of them. The bill was for Lowe's. Their price was $18.99, so I'm assuming you didn't get very many of them. The Veterans Parkway's already had some vandalism, $133. Just curious what happened there. Nothing, I didn't see anything specific in the bill run explaining it. And I didn't send a FOIA request for it, but I'll be more than happy to. There's also 2 playscapes that were vandalized, $62. I'd like to know where those were and what the vandalism entailed on both of them. And, oh yeah, the whole GFL thing, I know I'm bouncing around a little bit. The whole GFL thing, you guys did, as Mr. LaFata said, you jammed an extension down our throat. You knew you shouldn't have done that. You should have sent it out for bid. That was the right thing to do. I mean, Lovelock got taken out in handcuffs for doing the exact same thing. So I'm just really hoping somebody's gonna pay attention to us. You know, we rattle enough cages. I hope somebody's gonna come and audit us. I don't know if the numbers are bad, good or bad. I don't know. I'm just hoping that we get some help. Thanks.
Any more public comments? Item 8, the consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under consent agenda will be considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 8th, 2025. B, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. C, approval of the payroll report for week ending July 2nd, 2025. D, approve the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce to approve a permit for fireworks other than consumer or low impact by the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Bureau of Fire Services. E, to approve the Department of Public Safety to authorize payment to Oakland Community College in the amount of $5,850 for tuition for Cadet Bolish to attend the Police Academy. The full amount has already been reimbursed to us by MSP MCOLS.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg. Discussion? Clerk Berry?
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Vosberg? Aye. Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Joseph?
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger? Aye. Supervisor Kirsten?
Aye. Item 9, public hearing. There are no public hearings scheduled tonight. Item 10, the regular agenda. We will move to item 10B. Clerk Berry.
Item 10B is an open discussion on waste hauler priority waste in regards to service issues.
So this is my agenda. I asked to put it on in light of our last board meeting and have an open discussion as to the problems and issues that we all are facing with our vendor in regards to trash waste, bulk pickup, and recycling. So just a quick summary has been clearly stated, and we all know the history. Priority Waste assumed the contract from GFL. Just a little backstory. When we asked a year ago in July when they took over, there really were no vendors out there that were able to serve our market, our residents here. And just so the residents know, there's no real vendor out there right now that wants to come in here. And as was mentioned in other communities, which I have spoke freely with all the supervisors surrounding us, we are in a sort of a pickle. With Priority, they are the sole vendor. There isn't another company out there that at this time could, even if we could void the contract by any means, which is a hurdle that would have to be addressed. But now you gotta find a vendor that's gonna come immediately and assume control of residential pickup. Roughly 17,000 residents, and that excludes apartment complexes, commercial locations, and private homes out in the rural area. So we've worked with Priority. We have an open line of communication with them on a daily basis. We don't like it either. And I see a few residents shaking their head. It's been difficult. As difficult it is for you. When we issued this contract, and I wasn't on the board, the assumption was we were going to issue a contract to a vendor that would just assume all garbage and waste pickup. And that's what the approach was taken. We didn't include staff or management internally at the township level to even engage in this. We had a community member that was provided from the previous GFL leadership team, and when we had issues, that individual went out and addressed the issue, but he was a GFL employee. He was not a township employee. Over the last year, the township has received, documented, these aren't just calls of angry residents that didn't document, 654 complaints from residents. Again, that's not documenting the residents that are calling saying, I can't get through the Priority Waste call line, their billing problems, it is compounded by that. July, we had 77 documented complaints, and in June, we had 30. Now again, we have administrative connections with, or relationships with Priority Waste, and we reach out to them, and they have done their best to work through the issues. They're not resolved, though. That is the problem. And we have an agreement with Priority that we have to honor. And as I stated previously, to get out of that contract, we're going to go through a legal battle. And I'll go back to, even if we get out of it, there isn't a vendor willing to come in right now, tomorrow, to replace them. So there are administrative issues and management issues of our waste pickup here in Chesterfield. So we're doing the best we can administratively with a contract that is in place. And what board members have in front of you after was mentioned at the last board meeting, I had Attorney Siebert look through the bill, or the contract, and there is a default provision that is in the agreement. Based on that legal opinion, you see the draft letter that is in front of you tonight that I was going to send to Priority last week. But in light of the supervisors surrounding us opening the door with Mr. Stamper, the owner of Priority Waste, we thought that we would make some headway as a group discussion would take place between the supervisors of the surrounding communities. Unfortunately, that didn't materialize. Individual townships went off and did their own things under the provisions of what they believe their contracts would allow them to do. And we took a different course until I got it in front of this board here for open discussion. I did email Mr. Stamper a week ago and ask him, which is the owner of the company, who I wanted to hear from personally. He's got a great administrative staff. I have no issues with them other than the company that they're trying to service. Mr. Stamper declined last night due to a family issue, but I see in the audience tonight there are two individuals that are willing to come and at least discuss. And I'd invite them to the podium at this point if they want to discuss and entertain any questions or at least address them. Dan, I meant no disrespect in any of the email exchanges that I had with you. You've been very good to us in trying to straighten this issue out. We are no different than Macomb Township, Shelby Township, Clinton Township. We are all in the same boat, and we've tried to work with you. And I appreciate everything that you have done. And Mr. Hyampa, Mr. Siebert says that the same with you. The problem that we have is my office is dedicating staff to manage a contract that we gave to you guys, and it's problematic. So that being said, I'll open it up to the discussion of the board members if there's any questions, or Mr. Benet, Dan, if you want to talk, if you don't mind me calling you Dan first name basis, I think we're there. Tell us what the problem is and how are we going to get better?
Good evening. As Mr. Kirsten mentioned, my name is Dan Benet. I'm Vice President of Municipal Sales for Priority. Behind me is Vincent Toyampa, our General Counsel and Chief of Staff. I'll be able to answer and address the majority of your questions, but Vince's expertise will also assist me with things I can't come up with the answer or don't have the answer. I'll give a little bit of a snapshot. I agree the numbers that you presented are similar. Our office are a little bit higher because we do receive calls from the members of the public. I'll address a couple of the issues that are present and acknowledged of access to us. But in June, because it's the most recent completed month, we had 200 or so residents call us with an issue for Chesterfield Township as a whole. I think you said 78 was in your office. Of those, we averaged a 15-hour recovery. Now, that's an average. It could have been a little bit earlier. It could have been a little bit longer. But generally stating within the next business day, maybe a carryover if it came to us late. Our goal is always to get any recovery request the same day by end of day. But again, if something comes in at 4 or 5 o'clock, it's a little bit more problematic. For the service of July and June, we've had some truck failures where we had to shut them down for the safety and well-being of our employees, whether it be the truck needed to be towed out of the township to avoid catastrophe, or a couple vehicles caught fire due to batteries or the heat in which the material was put into the trucks. So that does cause a problem in this time of year with the heat that is out there. Our goal is always to get the material picked up on the day of service, Monday through Thursday, complete from start to finish. We have not hit that mark. I'm not shying away from that, and I apologize to any that are affected in this crowd, as well as the many of you on the board. It's not something that I go to bed at night, or Vince or our owner, Todd Stamper, goes to bed at night satisfied with. We want to get your materials picked up every day. That's our goal. And where we sit today is better than it was a year ago, but is not where we want it to be. It's where reoccurring issues that come up that either yourself, Karen, will share to me on those main roads or problematic roads that continually pop up. I have an update on those where we're rerouting how trucks are circling those paths, and hopefully that rerouting, which will take some massaging in and of itself to correct those issues, but 25 mile, 26 mile, Hobarth come to mind, top of mind, that those are problem areas. And it's just the way that the maps were designed. Failure on my part for not diving in a little bit earlier, so I'll take the heat on that one. Our phone system, as it was documented, failed and collapsed in and on itself in July. We did a 4-phase roll-in by December. By January, everything was available to us as far as like the bells and whistles of the program. It was better in January, and I'm not saying it was perfect, but I'm saying it was better in January than it is today. What we are dealing with currently is 160 or so thousand residents that we build directly for your township and the 14 or 15 others that we build direct. The first 2 weeks of a bill cycle, we get hit with 5 to 10% of that population calling us to either discuss their bill or correct their bill, pay their bill, and that's almost anybody cannot staff for 160,000 invoices going out at the same time. So what we have done, and I've shared this with Brad, yourself, and your office, is we're changing the cadence in which some of these invoices are getting delivered. So some of you in the crowd, if you elect into the digital means of receiving invoices, you may have received your October through December invoice already. What that will allow us to do is release a little bit of a valve that's getting clogged, that you can call us earlier by breaking up those 160,000 calls into 3 phases. So your due date doesn't change. You can pay it September 30th and receive all of the benefits of paying it by September 30th. But what it does, it allows us a little bit of a spread of those 160,000. That's the first adjustment that we're making that will impact your residents. So if you see those bills, don't fret or worry that we're billing you early. The other thing is we're looking at the way that phones are being answered, the way that phones are being called back when a resident does call in and requests one. Most of those are being completed, if not all of them are being completed by the end of the day. Now, I may call you and you may not be at your house where you have your invoice in front of you, and that's a fair issue that we're trying to overcome, but we're trying to at least get back to those residents, schedule maybe a time that they know that they're going to be available, and then call them back within a 10, 15, 20-minute window of that time so that they're not sitting and wasting their period. But the phones are a problem that we are trying to address so that you, Brad, and Amanda, I know is your lead on a lot of the call-ins, can get back to our normal duties. And it's, again, like I said, something we're not taking lightly or making any excuse for. For the billing, I talked about the cadence in which we're sending them out. We all know that there was an issue with the last run of invoices that were sent out. And I'll just say it for the public that the third-party vendor we use for printing, packaging, and mailing, when they downloaded the Excel spreadsheet, deleted a column, and it caused some of the information to merge improperly, which gave everybody a bad invoice, per se. There are going to be no late fees associated with those invoices, knowing that it was our issue, as long as those corrections are made by September 30th. So if you contact us, those late fees are not going to be penalized. They're not put on your current statement that you will or have already received for October through December. If you are making an effort to call us and make those payments, again, if you're a couple of days behind October because of our fault, we'll call you back, we'll take care of it. We're trying to be a company that is regaining trust. We're trying to be a company that regains the value of our service in your community, understanding there's been problems on our side. So the last thing I'll say is just a thank you to the various and numerous members of your Township Trustee Board, your administrative staff, Brad, the DPW staff, and all of the residents, as we touch every home every day, or every week, I should say, and we have not held up our end of the bargain quite yet, but knowing where we were prior to the acquisition and the challenges that we've overcome, the 100 vehicles that we purchased last year that are now coming in, 38 we've already taken possession, 62 are trickling in before the end of the year. The equipment that we took over with GFL is having some of its own struggles, and we've proactively ordered those vehicles last year, knowing kind of foresight that we were going to have this issue. Our goal is to get back to a normal cadence, an exceptional customer service model, an exceptional curbside service model. And like I said, every day we wake up with that goal, knowing we have not hit that mark, and we're going to continue to chase that. So that's my spiel. If Vince has anything to add.
Just shortly. So again, thank you, Supervisor Kirsten, for inviting Priority to be here today. Again, on behalf of the entire executive team of Priority, I want to extend our apologies, as well as renew our ongoing commitment to making sure that we are properly servicing and adhering to every part of this contract. When we acquired your prior hauler, right, that was a very shortened time frame. All right. Normally, when we do an acquisition of that size, we would have taken a few more steps in ensuring that the fleet was up to the level that we needed, that the routes, we understood those routes, but the time frame that your prior hauler gave us made that basically impossible. All right. So that's why those trucks weren't here in July of last year. We put that order in as soon as we had this deal done with GFL, and unfortunately, you can't buy a garbage truck at every dealership on the street. It takes a little bit of time to get those. We are taking possession, as Dan has said, we've taken possession of approximately 38. We'll get the remaining 62 over the remainder of this year. And that, we're working towards right-sizing the fleet and moving forward and making sure that we can continue to provide the services that the township requires.
Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Thanks, Mr. Supervisor. Look, if I could, just with a question for you, Brad. The board has as part of our information packet this letter that was drafted to Vince. When was that sent, or when well, two questions. When was it drafted, and has it been sent?
It was drafted after the last meeting on the 10th, as the date's on the top, if you see.
So it says June 10th. Is that like, I'm assuming July, because
July.
we're, right?
Yeah.
Because we're referencing, I mean, there are problems that are documented that go back to April in this letter. So I didn't know June 10th, but then it also references, is Vince or Dan or anybody at Priority familiar with this letter?
No. So
Okay.
the letter you see in front of you is a result of the last board meeting where the conversation was brought up. What are we going to do, and how are we addressing the growing issue? So I met with Attorney Siebert at our office, and I asked him to look at it and see what default meant, because default is mentioned in the agreement.
Right.
And good legal advice was you have to have documented times and events and days of when the lack of service or the neglect of service is occurring. So, as there was stated, Amanda, we keep track of everything that comes in. We keep track of when the residents complain, and we try and get addresses, locations, and even now we're growing into photographs. Send us text us a picture.
Sure.
Again, not knowing what the issues were with Priority, but on the flip side, we're also engaging Priority on a day-to-day basis. As I said with Dan, hey, Dan, there's an issue here. We're not getting through the call center. What can you do to help us? And as Dan said, he's the executive vice president by title, and we were looking for somebody a little bit on the trash route that could address it, but that's how high we got with the exclusion of the owner. So you see the dates and times, your question. The letter has not been sent out because, as meeting with surrounding supervisors and following what they were doing, we had a group meeting last Thursday, And the direction and path was, we were gonna meet as supervisors together with the owner and with priority management. Due to whatever, some factors, that meeting never materialized and the supervisors were left. I think once an attorney got involved, it was, okay, from another community, we need to involve our legal counsel, which then I held off. Like, okay, we still had a working relationship. I would like to continue down this, knowing on the back end, should something drastic happen, we don't have a vendor in the pipeline that could pick up trash the next day. So we're in a catch-22, and we still have a 3-year term on an existing contract. Again, trying to manage it, but also trying to put our foot down and say, hey, our residents need service, was where we've been at for the last month and a half since July 4th.
So in terms of the, I think the board, probably more appropriate, I'm guessing, the board can collectively sort of absorb this and then make a determination about how we want to engage
That is exactly what I'm
priority.
looking for tonight.
But I will tell you that I appreciate the documentation and the way it was laid out. This is not a, this has not been sent to you, but I won't ambush you here with this, but I just want to give you a cursory overview, because you're talking about the calls that you receive in terms of resident complaints, and then the calls that we receive into the township. 200 in 1 month, 70 on our end, 200 on your end. But what has been done in this letter, which I would like you to see, was it was prefaced with this paragraph. The township has received confirmation from representatives of Priority, including Dan Vinay and Ben Ben Makowitz, a logistics driver, from April 23rd of 2025 through July 8th. Mr. Vinay and Mr. Makowitz have confirmed in writing the following. And this is every letter or correspondence that you sent to the township, and there are about a dozen or so, starting in April of 25. Priority did not complete compost service to the township and only completed 80% of the route, only completed approximately 20% of yard waste, and it goes like that. That is your information to us. That's what you confirmed and sent to us. Based on that, there was concerns that the reoccurring problems are an example of Priority's failure to perform, and that continuing with the contract would be detrimental to the township. And I think the board will discuss more tonight and reach a conclusion. But as I listen to you, and I appreciate you both, Vince and Dan, coming in, but if we could just go back to the presentation that you made when you took over the GFL contract. And I was very hopeful, and I remember consistently hearing from Priority, the only thing that you will notice is the name on the bill. The only thing that you will notice about your service is the name on the bill. And of course, that wasn't accurate. And the first avalanche of calls, when I started to reach out to the contacts that I have, Matt Allen is somebody that's always been available to me. And I started to hear, like other communities were being advised, that the fleet of trucks that you got weren't in the greatest of conditions. And perhaps the selling company stopped doing regular maintenance in anticipation of unloading the entire fleet. And on those vehicles, those are not vehicles that can be neglected from a maintenance schedule. And so you inherited a fleet that was like pretty depleted and not in great working order. And I understood that as the explanation for the problems. I understood that as the explanation for the situation that Ms. Hornberger referenced 2 weeks ago with talking about hydraulic lines that were breaking and, you know, the mess that they create. What I don't understand is, you know, significant time has passed, and everything from how you construct your route to how you send out bills, which has nothing to do with GFL. Like, absolutely nothing to do with GFL. And I was in your facility. It was presented by Mr. Stamper, state of the art. It reminded me a little bit of Comtech with the amount of, you know, screens and the technology, and that was on full display, and part of the presentation as to why Priority was, you know, head and shoulders above their competition. There's a lot of concerns about the brand itself. I'm a big Tigers fan. I can't watch a game or go to a game without seeing Priority somewhere at Comerica Park. The amount of advertising and the amount of energy that goes into, you know, that part, and it seems like we've got a lot of sizzle and not a lot of steak. You know, we've got a lot of, we're on top of things, yet our residents are calling and they consume township staff. It's really, they're your customer, but they're our resident first, and they go to the broker of the deal. We instituted a single waste hauler ordinance, and so they don't have the free market to go outside of Priority. We brokered that deal, and we said it's a better deal than you could get independently. And when residents say, what do you measure the deal by? The amount of days that a compost can sits at the street, or the amount of money that I get charged for not picking it up? You know, like, I feel like the township has really dropped the ball, and they have a right to hold their elected officials accountable for a contract that they don't get any choice in. I don't know how many calls you must, Karen or Brad, that you must get with residents that say, I own a business and I have a dumpster at my business. I can take my household trash and I don't need anything to do with Priority or the township single waste hauler ordinance. So we say, well, the bill that all of your neighbors get is predicated on the household. So you could put it out at the street or not put it out at the street, but if you have an address in Chesterfield, you're going to get billed. That's also a small percentage of residents that call with that, but to get the service, you know, as sporadic as it is, and there are customers, your customers in the township and our residents, when you see the social media posts, and you do have people that will say, I've had great service, no complaints. And you know, when you look at the cost, I mean, it is astounding to think that you could have somebody come out to your house, you know, 4 or 5 times a month, pick up, recycle, compost, and household waste for under $20 a month. The cost associated with that, you just, DoorDash, you know, you can't, I can't really fathom how you're able to do it, except that you're not doing it. And maybe that's, you know, how you can afford to do it. The question that I had for you, and the concern I have for you, is Sterling and Macomb takes a much more litigious and aggressive position as it relates to their contract. Does Chesterfield lose the trucks that were committed here? Is there any chance that trucks that are earmarked for Chesterfield are going to Sterling or to Macomb to sort of tamp down their complaints and their default status? Are you reallocating resources that would otherwise go to Chesterfield to, you know, to handle the proverbial squeaky wheel? Does Sterling and Macomb get our trucks?
No, sir.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Sterling Heights had their particular issue is, you know, the prior general manager at our Sterling yard took trucks that were allocated specifically to Sterling Heights and took it to other communities. So in that sense, we rectified that issue and returned all of the trucks that were specifically purchased by Priority for Sterling Heights in the beginning of 2024, and returned that back to Sterling Heights. But as it relates to both Macomb Township and Chesterfield Township, and frankly, any community here in Macomb County or throughout southeast Michigan, we're not taking trucks that are allocated for specific cities to other cities. Now, what does happen is we may have a breakdown, all right? So what will happen is if there's no spares available, at the end of the day, after the routes are done, all right, we do take those trucks, all right, with those drivers to come support cities that are behind on services, all right? So when there is a breakdown in, let's say, Chesterfield Township, all right, we may have a delay, which may go into the next day, where I am pulling a truck from, let's say, Clinton Township, from Macomb Township, all right, or from New Baltimore on Wednesdays, whatever the case may be, to help support and finish the routes in your community. But to the extent that, and I will preface it in one other way, when we acquired your contract and acquired the other contracts throughout the other 74 contracts from GFL, they did not have a list of saying these trucks are specifically allocated to Chesterfield. These trucks are specifically allocated to Macomb. The general process that GFL had at that time was, here's trucks, and they would just move things around, and which was a situation where it was happening in April and May of this year by the general manager who was a prior GFL employee. And when that came to light is, again, when we took steps from a executive standpoint to replace that general manager, because one of the premises that we do have at Priority is that, we do identify and say, okay, we're making sure that these guys, these drivers are always in Chesterfield Township. Those guys are assigned specific trucks, and if those trucks are running, those are the trucks they use on a day-to-day basis, all right? That was a procedure that was not in place at our Sterling Heights yard under the prior GFL manager who became a Priority manager. We've replaced him, and since that point, the trucks that are servicing Chesterfield Township on a day-to-day basis is the same truck that had serviced it the day before, with the exception if that truck is in need of repair, and we have to then go to our bench.
I don't want to monopolize your time, but you mentioned in 2024, there were a fleet of trucks that were purchased for the Sterling Heights contract. They were to service strictly Sterling Heights. You found out that at some point, if I understood you found out at some point that you had problems in Sterling. You recognized that original arrangement hadn't been adhered to. There's been a corrective action. They now have the trucks that they're supposed to have. And my question to you is, when the trucks were taken out of Sterling, when they weren't getting the sufficient agreed upon number, where did they go?
Not to Chesterfield. They were in other communities.
It seems like they went somewhere else, and so wherever they go, if not Chesterfield, okay, but wherever they go, you don't have a lot of communities racing forward saying this is the best contract ever. The problems are fairly universal. Some are being addressed faster than others, but if you had the Sterling trucks going to other communities and it was still a problem in those communities, and now those communities, assuming that you just didn't acquire additional trucks, you return those trucks, that you now have a deficit in that community. It sounds and it seems in the natural what's happening is a shell game of sorts, because I'm no expert on but in the research I've done, the big get is a truck. To get the manufacturer to get a truck from the time you write the check until it's on the road servicing your customers, it's a big time frame, and there's a lot of competition for these trucks. You can't just materialize trucks. It seems like there's a somewhere in the decision-making inner circle, there's a decision about trucks and communities, and they're moving, and you're saying no.
All right, so let's go back to what Dan has already stated, all right? So Dan had pointed out that we have already taken possession of 38 trucks over the last month. All right, we're expecting through the remainder of the year another 62 trucks. Now, when Sterling Heights was mentioned, all right, Sterling Heights was a contract that was not acquired from GFL. That went through an extensive RFP process, all right, and we specifically acquired 9 months prior to starting the Sterling Heights contract. We had put in the order for those trucks, and we took possession of those trucks in April of '24, all right? So that had nothing to do with the GFL acquisition itself, all
Fair
right?
enough. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
So when we acquired GFL, or when we acquired GFL, when we acquired the assets from GFL, which were the contracts and the trucks, all right, after it became apparent, all right, that the trucks had not been maintained and that there was a deficit, we did put in order for 100 trucks of the various sorts, all right, and as you stated, you can't get that overnight, all right? It typically has a 6 to 9 months lead time. So, we put that order in roughly August, September. We started receiving those trucks in June. All right,
Vince,
so
my last question is
Sure.
for you. Is the company dealing with any financial crisis? Are there any large outstanding bills that are owed to your yards, truck vendors? Are there any substantial sort of, cornerstone issues at Priority currently?
no, sir. We do have dispute with 2 vendors for various legal reasons, for which we do have the resources to certainly pay them, but we're not paying them because we have a legal dispute with those.
Fair enough.
But with respect to all of our other vendors, we are current within terms.
Just close with this. I really had great respect when Mr. Stamper sort of showed up on the scene, at least in my world, and it looked like Priority was going to be a player. He was very welcoming and invited every board member to come in and, as he said, see our operation from the inside out, kick the tires. We're an open book. It swayed a lot of people, and it moved a lot of people, and it made people, leaders in various communities feel good about going to their residents and saying, this is a company that's very transparent and very welcoming. And I don't envy the position he's in because I see my colleagues across the county. Some of them, I think, are just really savagely politicizing this. It's good politics to, huff and puff, but it's not really problem solving, And I think when I talked to Supervisor Kirsten after our last board meeting, I like the idea of the communities getting together and having a shared approach in negotiations and discussions. It's a regional problem, and that kind of broke down. There were some communities that are going, and maybe that's because their contracts are dramatically different than Chesterfield's contract. I don't put out a lot of hope in partnering with other communities necessarily if the contracts are different, but I would like to call in the guarantee that I had, both Mr. Allen and Mr. Stamper. We're your partner for the long haul. We're not just trying to win this contract. We want to be your partner for a long time. And I don't know, I haven't talked to him personally, but Mr. Stamper not meeting with us is not indicative of partnership that is built for generations and, multiple contracts. That is the exact opposite of that. And I would ask, and if he gets word of this meeting, or you take it back to him, I would like the welcome mat rolled out for us when we were in the courtship phase in the same way that we're in the problem and we need resolution phase, because that's where we're at. And I don't like, no offense to the attorneys, we have great ones, you have great ones. When we get to attorneys, our residents lose. That's just, there's just no, you know, that means that all other diplomatic and reasonable expectations have been eliminated. It can only come at this point, I think, from Mr. Stamper, and I would like to be welcomed to the headquarters to lay out my concerns in the same way that I was invited in when I was asked to consider whether or not priority was a good fit here. And I'd like you to convey that and extend that to our entire board, because we're in earnest looking for a resolution.
Mr. Joseph, you and the entire board are always welcome to meet with Mr. Stamper, myself, and the entire team. I will say, all right, that we have met separately with basically every community that that Mr. Kirsten has referenced. We've met them one-on-one, and we are happy, and I think Mr. Stamper advised Mr. Kirsten that he's happy to meet with him as well as the board at any time. He just could not make tonight's event. It's, again, no disrespect.
He's a strong guy, he's a tough guy, and I have great respect for him, but I believe that he's adopted a position of, like, I'm not coming in to just unfairly get my head kicked in. I'll take a pass on those. I don't want that. I don't want that environment. I would just like to have the environment that we had when, you know, I'll call him directly, but I would like it to be said publicly and from you to him. We have a problem. We really need to sit down and talk about this and find a resolution, because our residents and your customers, they deserve better, and we gotta figure it out. And I'm more than willing, and I think most of our board feels the same way. We just know that we can't continue on a multi-year contract to receive the volume of calls that we get from our residents, and documented problems. They're not just, you know, an isolated one-off or an outlier. There's a systemic problem. We gotta figure it out, and I think talking with him is the key.
We understand, we agree, and again, we welcome everybody, anyone that you would like to come to our offices, or we'll come to your office and we'll sit down and figure it out.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.
Trustee Vosper?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you both for being here. You'd mentioned, I have two things I'm going to talk about, the billing and the other is the vehicles. You had mentioned that after a billing is sent out, that you receive a lot of communication from the people being billed. What is the nature of the reason they're calling? You had one outlier where the bills were incorrect. What are some of the other issues?
Talking with our billing department, there are a couple of things that occur due to the design in which we invoice your residents with annual pay discounts or discounts for their age or their I can't remember if you have a snowbird, but there are variables in the billing, right? So in the sharing of documentation from GFL, some of the information came over perfectly fine, and some of it came over perfectly not fine, where it was missing that. So we bill 4 times a year. So we're getting an invoice out to everybody, and our first bill only went out in October. The June bill, I believe, is a GFL bill because it was already sent out. So we have only had 3 times to engage with residents to correct some of the bills that went out. I believe the majority have now been corrected as far as things that we should have had tagged on the account that have not been, and cleaning those items up. I'm sure that there are instances and examples that we have not, and any of those that come to us, we will take urgent action on. But there are a lot of variables when it comes to billing 17,000, 18,000 or so homes when you have those different opportunities for a discount.
Okay, and I would imagine some people may not have caught it the first bill that they received, now the second one.
Correct, yes, there are absolutely secondary identifiers. My grandmother lives in a community that we bill directly, and it was kind of the same with her. Her first bill came, she paid it. The second bill came, she identified that her discount wasn't applied. So she called me, but, you know, those are things that definitely happen. I know money is personal, and it feels even more personal because we bill the township residents direct. So it feels a little different where I live in St. Clair Shores, where I get billed through my taxes. So it comes out of your pockets and your wallets, and you see it and you feel it and you watch it leave, and where we have performed, it feels a little differently. So that doesn't solve the issue, but I understand the feeling of it.
All right, thank you. The other is, you'd mentioned you have 38 trucks, 62 more coming. I'm wondering how many, if you were to look at this as a new contract and we sent you our information on number of households, et cetera, what would you consider the proper number of trucks actively working and how many on standby?
If this were to go through the full RFP process, all right, and we had assuming all variables remain the same, all right, then I would estimate that this contract should be handled with approximately 8 to 9 trucks, all right? That's, again, assuming all variables to be the same. That's based upon, again, 17,000 units, so you're roughly looking at, 3,500 units a day, if you will, right? Because of the fact that I believe, and I could be wrong in this, I mean, but I believe Chesterfield allows their residents to use not only a container, but throw bags out there in addition, okay? So it's a cart plus, if you will. In those type of scenarios, all right, we are sometimes forced to use what we call rear load trucks. A rear load truck is a 2-man crew, which can handle roughly, you know, we expect them to handle about 800 to 1,000 units a day. So trash pickup would be 3 to 4 trucks. If you were to go fully carted, all right, it would be, you know, it would be less than 3 trucks. We wouldn't be fully utilized for 3 trash trucks. Recycling would be approximately 2 trucks if it was fully carted. With the current system, it's definitely 3, all right? And then compost would normally be 2 trucks. And during your heavy season, which is April, May, and then October, November, you would have to add a 3rd truck. So in those months, I would expect 9 trucks in the community, all right? And then in the lighter months, it would be 7 to 8. That in a perfect world.
Okay, when you said the 8 to 9, is that just the trash, or does that include all the recycling?
That's across the board. So it would be approximately 3 trucks for trash, all right? Approximately 3 trucks for recycling and 2 trucks for compost.
Okay, and how many do we have right now?
I believe the total is 11 that has been assigned.
You send out more than? You send out more than what you said?
Because of the fact that we don't have the equipment that I would prefer to have in your community. That's part of the order that we have. All right, so we do, and again, 11 is assigned because we assume breakdowns that which happen. So we have it overstaffed to cover the 4 days of service.
Okay, are any of those 62, do we have any new trucks, first of all, of the 38?
Not yet. It's due to the fact, again, the newest trucks that we've received are what we call automated side loaders.
Okay.
All right?
And the other 62, are those going to be the same type?
No.
So
we're receiving rear load and Corrado type trucks, which are useful in your community.
right, because our contract, what do we have, 4 more years on it?
3, I believe.
3 more years, and that includes, they can put out a bag if they want,
That's
or
correct.
the cans, the ones that the truck can lift up. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Any other questions? Mr. Iamp, I'm going to challenge you on a couple things. I invited Mr. Stamper to come and see my operation, as he did with other people, and I got silence. I don't appreciate that, and that's a problem. I asked him to appear here tonight directly as the CEO, owner of the company, and he declined. I don't appreciate that. I do appreciate you and Dan taking the heat and the daily heat for coming here and along with the other communities. But I want to point out some things. I didn't go down the road what the other communities did. I didn't call the news. I didn't do a TikTok video. I didn't go on YouTube. I simply engaged you two, Dan specifically and Matt. My appeal to Mr. Stamper was, hey, I'd like to speak to you directly, and I'd like to invite you into my operation, as was stated earlier. He did it to us. I'd like to invite him. Again, egos aside, I didn't appreciate it, and I still don't appreciate it now. Moving forward, I'm as unhappy as the residents are, but we have you. That's it. You're here for 3 years. And what I'd like to point out, and which was stated by Trustee Vosberg, is every waste hauler that I have engaged to discuss just how their operation works in surrounding communities, there are things that we are not going to get anymore. You're not going to be able to put out garbage plastic bags anymore with any new contract hauler that comes in. You are not going to be able to put out bulk in yard waste. You are not going to be able to do that. Companies, and I'll defer to you, Dan, to speak to this, the recycling, 3 trucks come through the township. You have waste, you have recycling, and then you have compost. Those can't be intermingled, correct? So when you say, I would like you to speak to this, when you say a truck goes through a subdivision and picks up garbage, it's not one truck. It's how many?
Correct, yeah, all 3 commodities are serviced by 3 separate trucks. Trash, recycle, and compost, they all are, we take generally trash right up to Pine Tree, which is local and nearby. Your recycling primarily goes to the Pontiac GFL MRF, the recycling facility, and then compost, again, nearby goes up to Indian Summer.
All 3 are set out at the road differently, but I can tell you moving forward in the industry, please jump in if I'm wrong. The people I'm speaking to, the way we handle it will not be handled that way in the future. 90-gallon or 90-gallon drums or containers that are lifted or picked up mechanically.
Correct, yeah, in the 60s, 70s, everybody thought that it was a big deal to use these big containerized carts, but it was carts plus because, some residents or individuals wanted a bag outside for convenience. I always go back to my grandmother, who's 90 years old, turning 91 this year, and she has 1 bag, right? And that's all that she has every week. And some residents want to just be able to place that 1 bag on the curb and get it to be picked up. I don't want a large cart to wheel down. I did give a cart to my grandmother and say, try it, and she actually likes it. But the way the industry is going for a number of reasons is to cart only because of the operational safety aspect. We all know it's not entirely safe to have an employee or a person hanging off the back of a moving vehicle, even at a residential or less speed. Accidents happen. We're in an industry where we're on the roadways, major and residential, and distracted driving is a problem. Somebody could rear end one of our vehicles because they're on their cell phone. Insurance rates are through the roof because of a number of these issues that happen not only to us, but across the industry, right? So as the waste industry moved forward, it incorporated automated system vehicles. The next wave is that more strict, rigid service approach that Sterling Heights has taken that leap on. City of Warren, who has their own sanitation, took that leap on many years ago, where it's cart only, limits on bulk, limits on compost. You can't, do all of your leaf cleaning on 1 week and put out 50 bags. And that's for 2 reasons, like I said, the safety aspect and the cost aspect. Cost goes up as liability and operations increases. And we've all seen and all felt the rising cost of goods that we buy for our families and our houses. It's no different in our industry with labor. When we started in 2018, the average driver wage was $20 to $22, give or take. Now is 20 to 28 to 32, depending on the experience and level of that employee. And that's a 3-year aging or a 4-year wage increase. Then you talk about the equipment. The equipment that was in 2018 and 19, 2.5 to 3.25 is now $375 to $5.5 and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the equipment, the labor, the liability, and everything that goes into those costs is what's driving a lot of haulers to go into that automated style of service.
Thank you. I don't have any, Dave. You got any more, Hank? Any?
Brad, I think you touched on a big issue in terms of the cost and the way that our residents have grown accustomed to. When you go through the subdivision on trash day, which is basically, Monday through Thursday, there are some curbs that are just lined up with like the bulk pickup, bags, carts, construction, broken windows, chairs, you name it. And the drivers, when Trustee Vosberg, when you were asking about the different trucks, imagine the time commitment for an automated system where the driver never gets out of the truck, just empties a cart, and the cost associated. The area that he didn't even mention is, I'm a little bit more aware of it because I drag it out to the street, but the awkwardness of some of these, things that you gotta, and if it rains, it's, 50 pounds heavier, and I don't know what the workers' compensation type, costs must be associated, and not just the drivers, injury from distracted drivers and accidents, but like the physicality of the job. These guys are going, I had a pretty heavy trash day, and I know you don't like us to talk to your drivers at the street, but, I couldn't help taking a tip and some, cold water and just saying thanks, because these guys are really taking a beating. Any complaint seems to, and they work hard. They work really, really hard trying to play catch up most of the time. So I agree, Brad. I would like to hear. He did invite us in. I know that we didn't go together, but you were over there and you saw his operation. Guy's really proud of what he built. It's a tough time. We need him the most, and we don't deserve a. I'm glad that you guys came. But you're always here. I would have liked to have seen him, and I understand if he had a scheduling conflict, but we need to hear from him directly in the same way that we heard from him, on the front end of this contract, and in a respectful way. We're not, but he's got to come. He's got to come and sit down with us, and I understand why you feel a little bit slighted. It's not an ego thing. It's just a proper thing. It's a respectful thing. So,
That's all I was looking for. Thank you. I don't have any more questions, gentlemen. Do you want to stick around? There's some residents here that may have some questions for you. You can take offline.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 10C. Clerk Berry.
Item 10C is to approve a recommendation by Public Services to award design services in the amount of $19,631.77 to Anderson, Exton, and Westrick for the trenchless construction of the 54-inch sanitary sewer on 21 Mile Road and Anchor.
Supervisor Kirsten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Second.
Clerk Berry. Mr. O'Connor?
Good evening. This item is a request to initiate the replacement of a existing 54-inch sanitary sewer on 21 Mile Road. It serves about half the township, everything east of I-94. It was TV'd in 2023. This specific run was identified to be in need of replacement, so that's what this item is.
Mitch, you want to discuss where the funding comes from for this?
Yeah. I think in 2023, the township bonded for the northeast sanitary sewer, I think $6 million. That project was constructed for roughly $5.3 million. So there's, again, roughly $700,000 that we need to spend on sewer projects. So we spoke through the finance department to the bonding council. They said this project would be eligible to spend that bonded money on this project.
Any questions from the board? Trustee Anderson?
Yeah, I just wonder, Mitch, AEW, the only one that bid on this, or the only one we look at as far as an engineering company?
Yeah, and that's a great question. We have 3 consultants, SDA, OHM, and AEW. and I think we contracted with them in 2018. So you probably noticed SDA does pathways, parking lots, and paving projects. So SDA does like the Jefferson Pathway. AEW does the trenchless projects, lining, TVing, and cleaning. And OHM does the designs for the bigger jobs, the Jefferson water main replacement. They did the Brandenburg boat launch. So at the time we awarded those contracts, we kind of, and generally speaking, we do follow that program. We kind of have SDA do our paving and sidewalk stuff. AEW does our trenchless stuff, the TVing and cleaning and the lining. And then OHM does the bigger design jobs. And it's worth stating, in 2018, when we signed the contracts, they all issued their fees are based on a percentage of the awarded amount. So AEW, I think, is the lowest percentage of awarded amount for trenchless projects.
I just asked that question because I know, I think of the Macomb Interceptor, when it was brought forward a few years ago, there was, the name of that company, it was 1.5 million to repairs, and when the board finally accepted it, the amount was up to 14 million. I believe the same engineering company came up with those figures 6 years apart. I just wonder if there's anyone else out there doing that. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mitch? Any other questions? I have a motion by Supervisor Kirsten, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve item 10C. Clerk Berry?
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph. Aye. Trustee Hornberger. Aye. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Item 10D.
Item 10D is to approve a recommendation by the supervisor to partner with Macomb County Department of Roads to mill and overlay Salt River Drive approach at a cost not to exceed $7,000.
Motion by Trustee DeMink, supported by I'm sorry.
Yikes.
Holy mackerel, yeah. Trustee Trustee Joseph? Supported by Supervisor Kirsten. And Mitch, I'll jump in on this because that's where I was going with this. So, yes, this is the entrance to Private Shore, but it's also the entrance to the Meldrum Street. That residential area has been complaining for years about not only Meldrum, but the entrance and the approach. Trustee DeMink did call and say his neighborhood that goes down from Jefferson onto Salt River Drive was basically torn up when they did the bridge, and he was dissatisfied and just pointed out that it should have been done in that bridge project. It was not. Because of what happened there in our current share programs that were with the road commission, I reached out directly without Mitch knowing, behind his back, and asked the Department of Roads, what is the cost? The reason I did that was because there were residents that said, listen, if I gotta cover it, I'll cover it. What's the cost of it? And with it being a county road, I couldn't do it without the county approval. So that's what started this. What came back is we had some leftover funds from a share project, and we highlighted the county road easement, just the county road easement, both to Meldrum and Salt River, and that's the highlighted area that you see. The reason it was placed on the agenda is because, again, Mr. Wanigat from the Department of Roads said, listen, the contractor who just finished 24 Mile Road in Sass is in the area still, and if I get connected with Mitch, we will try and do this on scale and try and get it done right away. So that's why it's on the agenda. I didn't present it until Mitch until after I already did all the introductions, so now it's all yours, Mitch.
Good evening. And again, this is the public road or right-of-way, as you can see on that map. Salt River Drive is private. They just did a paving SAD to recap that. Meldrum is also private. They have a special assessment request in process. And Supervisor Kirsten touched on this. We did a capping agreement with the County Road Commission this year for Hooker, Telstar, and Sugarbush. So when that, and again, it's a contract price, but the contract didn't cost as much as they thought it would. So there is approximately $13,000 left unspent from that program this year. So the intent is to use that $13,000 and an additional $6,000 or $7,000 to recap this section of the public road.
Thank you, Mitch. Discussion? Trustee Rosberg?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The agenda says that it's a cost not to exceed 7,000, but the estimate from Wannegat from the Department of Roads is 19,000. So it is a $19,000 project, and we're paying 100% of it. It's not part of a match program. All of the other programs that we have done with the Department of Roads have included some kind of a match, be it with PA 51 money, that some other form of money. This one is 100% township general fund paid for if this gets approved. I don't approve of this because we've never done 100%. Maybe at some point we will. I don't see it as an area that has like emergency vehicles or sensitive type transportation or traffic going through there. And I brought that to your attention, and I thought you were going to remove it from the agenda.
I was, but after discussion, we just, we figured we'd either let it go or deny it or move it forward. Again, this is outside of what the county had proposed to this. This wasn't even on their list of projects, so.
Correct, because the projects that are on their list comes to the sidewalk, road,
Correct.
and pathway committee to review.
Well, yes, and again, trying to satisfy the residents that live there who have tried to get their road and they just can't afford it, and this was a small area that impacted that area. This is not a share. We have, as Mitch said, we have leftover funds. This is just an additional that will cover the cost of accommodating just that specific area for county road easement.
Right, but if we don't use those funds, that money would be returned to us.
Yes.
Right, so this is 19.
I'm going to assume yes, it would.
Right, because we have to pay in department, whenever we do these cost share things, we have to pay in advance to the township for what, or to the county for whatever our share is going to be. They want it all up front before they do anything. Is that correct, Mitch?
That is correct.
Yeah, so, and then as in any project, sometimes it's lower, and sounds like in the couple projects you mentioned didn't cost as much, so there's some leftover money. I would prefer that we save that money, that we, return to us and we can apply it towards some type of a match type project, or have a more detailed discussion about times when would we pay 100% for a road that is a county road instead of a match.
Mr. Supervisor, I understand the pathways, parks, the committee analysis, the 50% match, all of that. The uniqueness of this project, as I see it, is I think if you put this on the county radar and slate this project for a 50% match, somewhere around 2029, you're going to get an offer of 50% of a $40,000 project, and you will have missed an opportunity, because the one thing that we have in this township right now is a lot of road construction crews. If they can take, this is a small project, if they can take basically leftovers and do a $7,000 project to finish the work that these residents have already put into their own. These are private roads and they've already recapped their own. Not to mention, I think that there's a legitimate complaint from the existing construction doing, this isn't a road that gets heavy traffic, but it sure did for a while. It sure did during the bridge construction, got a lot of heavy traffic, and I think they can make a strong argument that that road took a terrific beating. The county will counter with, well, we're not liable, but all players involved recognize you could fix it for $7,000 and resolve all of these, problems. I understand it didn't follow the committees and the deliberation. if you go that route, like I say, in about 5 years after we've exhausted all of the committees on our end and their end, and we develop policies over which projects we will fund at 100%, I would say projects under 10,000 that potentially could be 40,000 in a few years would go to the top of the list. This is a strike while the iron's hot kind of project, and if you squander it, one, you're going to hear from residents who say that this was really a wasted opportunity, penny wise, pound foolish, and mark my words, in a few years, when this project, if it ever shows on the subdivision roads, it won't be 7,000. It'll be 4 or 5 times that easily. So I think we should take advantage of the opportunity we have now and get this squared away.
Again, this was solely on me. This was, I reached out to it when the residents called and began to ask why. That's why it wasn't funneled through the committees, which I totally agree. I created the committees. It is purely an opportunity insofar as today Scott Wanigat called us and asked us when we're going to approve it because the contractor is leaving the area. So I told him I'd let him know first thing this morning. To your point, yes, I was going to pull it off just because I believe in everything you're saying. But in light of the residents that did complain and trying to show the residents that live there, we are paying attention to their road, I left it on. And if it goes down, it goes down. Yes, Trustee Vosper.
I just want to make a correction. It is not $7,000, it's $19,000.
That is correct. Full disclosure.
It's $19,000 for the project.
They are using leftover money that we have paid them already as the partial funding for this project. Yes.
The agenda item.
Trustee Ornberg?
The agenda item, just for clarity, the agenda item that was part of the motion that I made was an approach not to cost $7,000.
Correct.
I don't know where 19,000 comes from.
The email from Scott Wanigat from the Department of Roads says 19,000.
The motion is 7,000. That was the motion.
The motion's wrong.
I mean,
Additional,
okay.
additional dollars out of another check for 7,000, that's right, but that's only because, it's only 7 because they already have.
I made a motion, just for clarity, I made a motion to approve the recommendation to partner at a cost not to exceed 7,000.
Yeah.
That's my motion. That's
So-
what I'll be voting.
That is the ask. Trustee Ornberg?
So, I need clarification. The ask is for an additional $7,000.
That is
They
correct.
already have $13,000?
That is correct.
So that's $20,000, not 19. And I have a question. You mentioned that there's an SAD already in there. Is there ongoing work?
There was a special assessment that was recently constructed for Salt River Drive.
Okay,
There's a special assessment request for Meldrum. So the special assessment process takes almost a year from the time the petition
Okay.
is. So there's one in process for Meldrum, which may or may not pass. Salt River was recently paved.
it's
with
already done.
It's done.
Okay. 'Cause it doesn't make sense to me to do that and then have construction going over it.
The-
And it's gonna
those-
have to be done again in 2
Those
years.
SA special assessments are only for the private section of the road.
Right.
This is to recap the public right-of-way, the county
Yeah.
right-of-way.
So
Okay.
we're gonna pitch in for the recap, and then construction vehicles are gonna come down to do Meldrum, and we're gonna have to do the recap again in 2 years?
No, not necessarily. Well, I'm
I'm
gonna
just
say
asking.
no. Yeah, no, it's a great question, but, construction vehicles traverse public roads and don't damage them. I mean, the
Correct.
roads are designed for construction load.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions? Trustee Vosper?
When will Jefferson, it's my understanding Jefferson is supposed to be resurfaced?
2028 or 9?
I think it's over a period of
Period of time,
years. Let's just say from M59 to New Baltimore is roughly 6 miles. I think they're doing 2 miles a year for, starting in like maybe 27 or 28.
So when would it reach Meldrum?
I think they're starting north, or south to north, so they're probably, let's say they're starting at M59. And if it's 2 miles to Meldrum, then let's say 2 miles. Or let's say in the first phase.
You think it would be in the first phase?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is next year?
No,
starting?
I don't know. It's the road commission's
right,
project.
well,
It's their schedule.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
But my thought was if it's anytime soon, then perhaps there'd be additional cost saving if they could do it when they passed right by, instead of coming, having to reschedule. But I don't approve of this because the cost to the general fund is $19,000, regardless of what the motion says.
Thank you. Any further questions? Clerk Barry.
Not so much a question, but a comment. My concern with this item is the precedent that it sets for the future. If we're going to do this for this, because we have some extra money available and now it only costs an extra $7,000, what happens when the next street or our next group of residents says, well, you did it for them, and we say, well, we had extra money, now we don't, so we did it for them, but we can't do it for you. Either that we have to commit one way or the other. To Trustee Vosberg's point, I understand either we have to agree that we're going to do this for everybody, should these other types of situations come up. Arguably, maybe it will never, but my concern is the precedent that it sets of what we're going to pay to service a smaller contingency of residents taking public funds to do that with. So my only concern is the precedent that it sets and the fact that we don't have a policy to fall back on in that regard. What do we do when the next situation comes up in the next one? Are we going to commit ourselves to this type of an expenditure in the future? If we are, that's fine. But if we're not sure, we don't know, and then people end up getting treated differently, that's my concern.
Nope,
Thanks.
it won't be treated differently. It'll come right back to the board here and have a discussion just like we're having now.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor,
Trustee Joseph.
that precedent-setting argument, I wish I could have a chart for how many times that's been pulled out. Because if there's one thing that we do well is make exceptions to the rules. But I understand if we want this in committee for a few years, I'm perfectly okay with that. It seemed like a good opportunity to uniquely fix a problem in a way that I don't think will be available to us. But once the committees get done and we take up this again in, I don't know, 2030, we'll have a six-figure bill in front of us, and then we can hear about well, at least we're good stewards of fidelity to process, and we didn't set a precedent. So I understand.
Thank you. Again, this was on me. It was a request from the residents that asked for it. We reached out to the county. This was the solution they presented to us. That's why it's on the agenda, and that was my ask, and I went behind Mitch's back to get it on here, so.
Well, I'd just like the record to reflect that I took no special favor for Trustee DeMink, who I'm not great pals with, and the fact that this benefits him and his neighborhood makes me want to vote no, but it's still a good deal for the rest of that neighborhood, and that's why I was supporting it.
Thank you. I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kirsten, to approve item 10C, or 10C, 10D. 10D. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Joseph. Aye. Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger. No. Trustee Vosberg.
No.
Clerk Barry, no.
Item fails. Item 11, addendums. There are no addendums. Item 12, public comments. There is a 3-minute time limit for public comments. If you would please state your name for the record, just so we can keep track. It is not required.
Christopher Pierrick, Chesterfield Township. Just a couple of things. So Priority did come in. They explained a lot of things. Even though they said things are getting better, I don't think we're looking at butterflies and unicorns yet. I think there's still going to be problems out there, and people are going to still struggle with getting a hold of them. So I bring this up just because at the last meeting I brought up the only recourse a resident has because they weren't getting any resolution is to stop paying their bill. And if that is going to end up on their taxes, it's not right. So maybe that can be looked at, since they're not holding up their end of the contract. Maybe that part of the contract can be looked at as well. I also wanted to bring up something about residential inspections. I reached out to Trustee Joseph. He got back with me, answered some of my questions. But one of my concerns I have is between April and June, the Planning Commission approved several developments totaling 690 different either units or houses. And my question was, how do those get inspected properly? Trustee Joseph shared with me that they do increase head count and things like that when that happens. But a couple of things that we weren't able to get into because of time was, do certain companies get the inspection isn't as thorough? So a good example is the sidewalks that were replaced. I know that in one area of the township, the sidewalks were poured right after heavy rain in forms that were filled with water. And if I was a resident doing that work myself, I'm sure that the inspector would have been there and told me I wouldn't be able to do that. However, a contractor that was vetted by the township was able to do that. Is that how that happens to get, is that same thing gonna happen where they'll check a box, okay, this is a 12-unit apartment building, and I check the electrical on one unit and it's good, so I'm gonna say they're all good, or do we look at things individually? There's a newer building right near my house, and it's in a complex, and the sidewalks are already crumbling. The siding's coming off the building. The shingles are lifting up, so it doesn't appear that inspection processes were followed or because of poor workmanship. So just concerned about that. People will be moving into new homes and just want them to be protected. Thank you.
I live on Point Lakeview Street, and I can't begin to tell you how disappointed I am with your vote to not allow that Salt River to be paved. I've been out there since 2000. We have to pay for our own road to be paved. Salt River was just paved. Meldrum's private, it has to be paved. The bridge was put in, they destroyed the road, and here you have an opportunity, like Mr. Joseph said, at a good bargain with money that's available, and you turn it down. I can't understand why you would do that. That road entrance leads to Salt River Drive, Lakeview Drive, Point Lakeview Street, Meldrum Road, Bayshore. All these people access it, and you deny that. I don't understand it. Have you folks ever driven down that road? Have you ever pulled in there and see what it's like? I have to call Macomb County Road Division once a month to come out there and put asphalt into the potholes. We pay enormous taxes living out on that property, and we have to drive through a minefield to get to our roads that we pay for. So you have driven down that road? And what do you think of it? You think it's fine?
Thank you, sir.
I would just like to second what that gentleman just said. I live over there, and I didn't hear a response from you about what you think about those roads, but I walk those roads with my children, and that street, Salt River, comes around a bend. Those potholes are so bad. Cars drive into the other lane, almost hitting me and my children because of the pine trees that they have over there. That road is atrocious. I live off of Roselawn, and they did a $500,000 contract over on that street that we had our roads repaved when I first moved in. And the amount of construction trucks that go down and up that road, I understand it's a private road, but the amount of traffic that comes in from Roselawn, that's only a one way in, one way out off of Salt River. I don't know if you guys understand that. That road does look like a minefield. It's awful. It's unfortunate that you guys turned that down, but I just wanted to second what you said. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Paul Lafata. The continuing saga of the pass-through water and sewer rates and HRC's fixed rate increases. It's been absolutely no transparency, no available information for the residents. This affects 18,381 single residents, single-family residents. About 45,217 residents, and last time Kirk Berry mentioned that we have 35,000 registered voters, and we can't get any information before a meeting so we can understand what's going on. Because why? It's a secret. You don't want the residents to know. This is not a democracy anymore. This isn't where people really want to live. You've taken them and put them in the closet, and all you want to do is get into their pockets. You don't care how much money you lost, how much money you've wasted, how much money you've misallocated. All you want to do is amass a sum of money and pass it on to the residents and keep going your merry way. Spend, spend, spend. One of the reasons why we spend, we approved AEW. Well, we didn't approve AEW, Township Board did. And if you go back, and there's probably no risk assessment done, but there's the Weber Paddle Park with a telephone pole in the middle of the sidewalk. There's the Miller Court pump station where there was no design for the electrical panels and a generator, so they put it in front of somebody's house, and it costs an extra $80,000 to move it. This is a AEW design, and we don't do risk analysis. We just keep inflating the contingencies. The ball field, they did a survey, AEW did. Then they did another survey because the fence to the west was off by 20 feet. And we pay for all this, and we pay for contingencies. And you want to know where the water and sewer money goes? A lot of it goes to AEW. But there's no risk assessment. And I think we pay for, for goods, not mediocrity. The North Gratiot Interceptor, AEW estimate 1.5, 3.5, and then Township takes it over, letting everybody else off the hook for $14 million. Why do you think HRC is trying to get everything increased? We got to pay bills because we don't know what we're doing.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
John Speaker, Chesterfield Township. Trustee Vosberg, whatever it is that you took tonight, we were loving it, so nice job on that. Part of the problem with Agenda D not being approved was there was a lack of transparency, and by a lack of transparency, it appeared on the bill run that it was going to be a $7,000 cost to the residents. It wasn't a $7,000 cost. It was a $20,000 cost. There was $13,000 of surplus that they were using of our money. So I think, Supervisor Kirsten, if you would have been honest when you brought this agenda item out, then it would have passed. But that's always been a flaw of yours, honesty. So you've always had an issue with that. So water and sewer increase was postponed, in my opinion, because, in August, people are on vacation and you won't have this turnout, so it was strategically done, in my opinion. Overruns in this township is systemic. We hemorrhage overruns in this township, and that's why we're in the position we're in, because we hemorrhage overruns on everything, whether it's this building, should have never been bought, whether it's what's going on at the township. Everything we do in this township hemorrhages because Supervisor Kirsten focuses on one thing, loyalty. Instead of qualified individuals, it's all about loyalty with him. As far as your comment about Mike Lovelock, you know who Mike Lovelock was, Supervisor Kirsten. Mike Lovelock was the supervisor of this township. When Mike Lovelock was in this township had nothing but surpluses in funds. He had everything funded. So let me just remind you who Mike Lovelock was. And one of the residents said that she watched the Macomb Township meeting with Vince Viviano. Yeah, Vince Viviano is Italian. He knows what he's doing. You can't compare him with the Peckerwood that we have here. So night and day difference. So, and as far as paying $11,000 on our tax bill for our taxes being printed, well, that was another brilliant idea that Kathy Elliott had in trying to save money, but it didn't save the residents money. It just cost the residents money. And the one thing that I want you to keep in mind too, Supervisor Kirsten, is Mike Lovelock owns a home in this township and he pays taxes. I've yet to see you buy a home in this township and commit, but yet you'll suck that money right out of the residents, whether it's your retirement pension or what we're paying you now. Again, Mike didn't stifle money. We had a surplus,
You're good, sir. You're good. You do us a favor when you speak, but you're out of time.
Janice Young. I gave Karen a paper to pass out to you that I kind of gave to everybody here. I was on the Michigan Township Association website where the residents pay dues for you guys to belong. And it talks about like why townships and what's supposed to be so great about a township. So I kind of put some comments in the margin about Chesterfield, so you can just read that in your spare time or doodle on it, I don't really care. As far as the water rate increase goes, we don't have anything in Chesterfield that tells us what the RTS fees cover. So I did look up some other communities, and it says the fees are to cover a portion of the administrative costs and capital needs of the system. Fees that are captured, that captures and fixed expenses of operating, maintaining the system, and quality of service, and then it covers a portion of the fixed costs incurred by the city to operate, maintain, and repair the water and sewer infrastructure of the city or township. HRC's letter lists 3 main points as to why we need to have an increase. And the third one says, the township board capital improvement costs of $1 million for the remainder of this year for a total of $7 million. So I just have to wonder, are they referring to the capital improvement plan that's in the budget? I know you're not going to answer me, so maybe at the end you might answer me, but is it tied to that? Because if it is, I mean, I'm looking at the stuff that's in there. Okay, first of all, there was a $150,000 mobile stage that, thank God, 4 of you had the brains to turn that down. But $3.5 million to renovate the township offices, $500,000 is in there for the Northeast Sanitary Sewer. I'm not using it, you're not using it, none of us are using it, because there's nobody out there. So we're paying for something that we're not even using. Now you're gonna increase our RTS fees now, and then the water commodity fees later. I'll pay the commodity fees. If we owe more for water, absolutely I'll pay that. But why is my sprinkler charge going from $9.23 a quarter to $28? What more is to maintain that sprinkler system, that meter? I mean, that's a 203% increase from 1 meter. I mean, that's like ludicrous. And if it's just to cover your capital improvement plan, stop spending. My God, I've said that like a bajillion times. Just stop the spending. That's all you have to do. And as far as Appendix A, I sure hope you guys do find that, and I hope I get it in my FOIA request. But I would like some answers to my bill run questions. I don't know if you're going to actually cover that or not. But and as far as the trash hauler thing goes, maybe we need to think outside the box. Can we use 2 different vendors, north and south end of the township? I don't know, commercial, residential kind of thing. I don't know, but maybe that's something we can think about going forward. I've eliminated recycling because I'll be damned if I'm going to spend any more of my water rinsing out recyclables that who knows where they're going. Now the water rates are going to go up, I'm not going to waste my time and my money doing that. Or maybe, how about recycle only every other week? Maybe that was a cost-saving factor going forward. I don't know, you can think outside the box. The priority gentleman did mention going forward, perhaps having Chesterfield doing the billing. So how much is that going to cost us if it's taken off of their plate and put onto this plate? How much are we going to pay to have that done? So I am concerned about that. Let's see, I guess that's probably it. That's good enough for, oh, no, ARPA funds.
Thank you.
Last update was 7 months ago, or 6 months ago. I'd like an update on that, please.
It's spent. Thank you.
Overspent. That's what I'm asking for. You
No,
overspent it.
it's
So
spent.
where's that money gone?
Thank you.
$3,300.
Yeah, thank you.
Linda Haydet, Chesterfield Township, on priority waste again. Last week, our neighborhood had to clean up the whole street because there was garbage, glass, bolts, nuts. I mean, we were power washing the roads, sweeping up glass. It was terrible. And we were out there till 9:30, 10 o'clock last Tuesday night. Get some pictures if you'd like to. But it's.
Can I walk those up to Trustee Anderson so we can pass those up to you guys?
But it seems like, you know, maybe they could be fined or something for doing all this stuff. It's terrible.
Joe Kadich again. I had some questions that I was going to ask and looking for answers if you were going to discuss the water rates. Obviously you didn't, so I want to go through them and I'll give you copies, so if you don't have a public meeting where we can ask questions next time, you can at least prepare to answer these questions that I have. First off, how many actual 1-inch water meters or less are in the system? Basically, it used to be about 18,000. And then we had equivalent meters, which were bigger diameter pipes coming in that had multiples that were added to it. You came out with, I think, somewhere over 20,000 equivalent meters. And has the cost of this expended over all those, or is it just to the 18,000 at 1 inch or less? And why the charge for a billing system now? You went to an automated system, all of a sudden it's costing us $4 a bill to receive a bill? The commodity change is unchanged, the water commodity change unchanged, even though Great Lakes Water increased by over 5%. But the RTS on the water went from $25 to $28. How is that justified? Water capital debt, $722 per quarter added to that. What water debt do we have? We don't have any water lines that we installed. The commodity rate raised the same for sewers. The RTS changed for sewers. Why? Sewer capital debt added of $6.21. I presume that's for the 26-mile extension that was there. And then the sprinkler commodity change didn't change, but the fixed charge changed. Where's the justification and why is all this happening? And the other thing I had on there, I still didn't get an answer, is what is the current amount of money in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund? You had the auditors back here, you gave some kind of a answer that didn't really answer it. We used to be able to look at it every year, ranged at about $11 to $13 million a year. And the fact that we didn't charge, fix anything or replace anything, it should be about, what, $30 million now? But it isn't, and you won't say what it is. The other thing I wanted to ask, or tell you about, is there's a lot of discussion over priority Now, when I worked for Ford, and I'm sure Paul ran into the same problem,
Time's
if
up,
we
sir.
had a, s-
Time's up, thanks.
okay.
Yep.
Good evening. Gloria Lacombe, resident of Chesterfield Township. I have a question about priority and what was stated here by Dan and the number of trucks that are allowed for our area. Has anybody looked at how many new homes builds you have authorized to be built in Chesterfield over the next 3 years, including businesses? And are they going to accommodate our growth with new trucks to handle that? That concerns me a lot. Sterling Heights and Clinton Township are pretty much built out. They don't have room for growth. So they should not even figure into our equation. We're growing exponentially here. Something's got to give, both on that fact and the fact that we're dealing with priority, and we need to be open with them if you expect them to be open with us. And you also need to be open with your residents here. Too many things are not coming to light to the people who live here that it's affecting. You guys do everything and then we hear about it. I never heard anything about this water thing until I saw something, unfortunately, on Facebook. You guys got to get with this century. We are the people you're representing. We have a voice. It needs to be heard. Money is a factor for all of us here, and it's getting to the point where Chesterfield is outgoing our budgets to live here. Between taxes, water bills, private pays for this, private pays for that, we need to look at where we're spending our money and who can live here. And the cost of these homes are probably eating our pocketbooks pretty badly. I live in a condo, a small condo, and I'm paying as much as my daughter is paying for a 5-bedroom home in Macomb Township in taxes. What am I getting for that? And maybe you guys should spend some of that money on street cleaners to follow behind priority right now to clean up these streets. We just blacktopped our community, and the whole blacktop is destroyed by their trucks and the leaking. So maybe we gotta listen to us a little bit and then take that to heart, because there's always elections, people, always elections. So hope you're listening. Thank you.
James Locke, Chesterfield. Wholeheartedly agree with that lady who's just up here speaking. She spoke from the heart and she meant it. I've been quiet the last couple of months. This board has totally disappointed me. This water department deal is outrageous. Board members sit up there and say, well, this has all been previous administrations, wherever the money disappeared, we can't do anything about it. We have to go on from here and straighten out the water department. In fact, that's what the supervisor says. You know, same thing happened when the police department went in the hole, owed millions of dollars. The township got them out of the hole. They still owe money. Board members say, well, it's mute to pay back that $3 million that the police department still owes, but it's still on the books. Whether they pay it back money-wise or you forgive it, somehow you got to do something up there to get that $3 million off the books, but you're not doing it. There's just so much you're doing. You're spending money for so many things. Sure, you're making the township look great. You got pathways. You know, every one of those pathways that you put in are not the responsibility of the homeowners. They don't have to shovel the snow off. They don't have to keep them clean. They don't have to repair them. That's all township now. That's added expense you put into the township ever since you've been here. You put the police department in a hole, and ever since you've been supervisor, you've been spending money and putting the township in the hole. You're spending more money than you're taking in. You tried to tell me last year, don't worry, we got plenty of money, we got plenty of money. No, you don't. And you know you don't. And you don't have the water department to borrow it from anymore. That's out in the open. Everybody knows that trick. You know? This board has got to take some hard facts. You know, you want to raise this water rate. Hey, quit spending money, cut back on some of your projects, future projects, and pay the water department back the $2.5 million, or pay water department back actually the $18 million that has been taken out of there. Don't have to do it all at one time. Do it a couple million, $3, $4 million a year. Cut back on the other spending. You keep forgetting this is a township, not a city, not a county. It's a township. You're just a little township. Why don't you act like that instead of spending like you're a big city? We cannot afford it. What you're asking on this water budget is outrageous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so I'm going to try and get through as fast as possible. One of the things I've been thinking about a long time, especially doing all the research I can for my novel series, is the notion of how we ended up in a certain situation over the past decade and a half, let's say, at least since the late 2000s. And the notion is that of what feels like stagnation. Stagnation as a country, stagnation as a state, stagnation as a community. The notation here is that the stagnation comes about because of a failure to progress in any multitude of different situations. There's a stagnation in education, a stagnation in our economy, a stagnation in our cultural development, and most importantly in this context, a stagnation in political discourse, as well as in how we can communicate properly toward advancing community and government in general. The biggest aspect of all of this for the stagnation comes about because of the failings of the 2008 financial crisis. The scars are still in this community. It still affects most of the country, and people have not really adjusted to that and accepted that. Everyone thinks that that stuff is in the past. No, it still has an effect today. And I've had to study a lot of this subject. Now, I'm not even an economist, but trust me, I've read several dozen books, multitudes of different resources, and to try and get an understanding of all of this, even going all the way back to the Asian financial crisis and the dot-com bubble. But the ultimate issue here was that a lot of communities, especially suburbs, overextended themselves during the 2000s in the effects of trying to clean up after the dot-com bubble burst. And during this time, the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates and encouraged people to accumulate massive amounts of cheap debt. This debt was eventually dealt with as increase in interest rates happened during the mid to late 2000s, and then when 2008 happened, it was the accumulation of all this debt happening all at once. People could not pay it off, especially in the mortgage situation, and that's how we ended up with the financial crisis. Well, the big problem is, why bring that up today? Well, the real problem was that a lot of communities overextended themselves and took on a lot of debt or spending during this period of time, but they had these financial obligations, and they had to utilize a lot of this for political purposes, as well as maintaining a status quo that was untenable. This leads to today, where a lot of the effects that we wanted to get back to, say, circa 2005 timeframe of standards of living, we can't get to that because of a national crisis, essentially, where if you actually look at economic charts, no, we're still way below what we were in the 2000s, especially the late 90s. The upward trends are not at the projections that they were back then. And we've had setback after setback with the prolonged recession, the effects of COVID, the inflationary crisis. There's a lot of this stuff's all interconnected, and how we need to incorporate a lot of this for future understanding. And it needs to come about for the proper communication, which means that you need to have more communication with the people.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any more public comments? Bring it back up to the board. Oh.
I don't know. I don't like to get up and talk in front of public, but I don't know. Overall, I don't think things are all that bad. Brad, I think you do a pretty good job personally. I think the board does a reasonable job. There is room for improvement. Glad a lot of these bitches aren't my neighbors. But anyways, that's all I got to say. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. I'll bring it back up to the board. Item, let's see, item 13, board comments. I'll start up with Trustee Anderson.
First again.
I jumped. You want to switch? I thought I did Trustee Hornberger last time.
Well, I'll just go.
Okay, I'll move next time.
Interesting meeting. Good seeing some new voices. Former trustee or treasurer LaFata, good to see you here today. I accompanied Mr. LaFata to the county sewer offices, 5 or 6 years ago, when they wanted to give the interceptor to the township ahead of time. He did a lot of research on it, found out what the damages there were, the maintenance of it, and it was a bill of like $1.5 million to repair it at that time. That board voted against it. In the meantime, Treasurer LaFata became former Treasurer LaFata. He really didn't beat the bushes during a re-election time. He was replaced. And the board accepted that now Chesterfield Township interceptor ahead of time by a 4-3 vote with a bill of $14 million attached to it. And guess who's going to pay it? The board, a past board, there might be some members here, put a sewer line along county line to the, out to 26 Mile Road. It'll spurn development out there. Guess who's going to pay for that the next 20 years? You have good points here, but I see you here. You got your pitchforks and your torches. You're angry. You have to pay attention. We didn't get here falling out of the sky. You put us here. You got to see what you're doing. If you're upset, start paying attention. Now, I'm just going to say in closing, August 12th, the water and sewer bill comes. Hope to see you all here, and fire up your memories too. The new people here, fire up your memories, see what's going on, and get by yourself and figure if you're really happy or not. Thank you.
Trustee Jules?
Thanks, Mr. Supervisor. I get a lot of your frustration. I share it. Trustee Anderson, the lady that got up and said she hasn't heard anything about this water, and if it weren't for Facebook, she wouldn't have known that it was here. As Trustee Anderson said, there was an attempt during our first term 13 years ago, and when the question was posed and you said, Supervisor who? It was prefaced with 10 years ago. It was more like 14 years ago, and I think the confusion over the time frame was I never thought that I would hear a championing of what was done under the Lovelock administration. That one kind of surprised me, but the information that was very accurate was the water rate proposal increase would have gone well over 50% in a 5-year period. Gradual rollouts yearly was what was proposed during my first term on the board. And I was able to get the board to support a water rate moratorium until we could form a water and sewer rate advisory committee. We did that, and I got to meet Mr. Kadich, Mr. LaFata, And they started coming to the meetings along with a number of other residents in the community. And we pushed that water rate increase back, and we adopted, if you recall, gentlemen, the pass-through. And the pass-through was something that was supposed to just capture the amount of money that the Detroit Water and Sewage Department increased it addressed the commodity, and residents were still in control of their bill by utilizing however much they used, and they got a true pass-through in the way that we structured it and way that it was adopted was through the RTS. That was a flawed system, but it was a port in a storm. It stopped the gross increases, and it just was a true pass-through. That was never designed to be, in place a decade later. So there's clearly a change in the water structure. I'll save the balance of my comments for the 12th, but these are decades old, and it's not blaming a former board, or it's just there's been a history here and a journey here, and a lot of the things that people come forward with, for the first time, it's the first time for you. And I don't know how to get more people here. I wish more people would come, whether you agree with me or not, because when you do come, it causes debate and discussion, and we can get a better outcome. I wish that we could go back to a time where people could comment during agenda items, because there's value there. There's a downside, and if people use that time to call names, it doesn't make for a stronger argument that we should, adopt that. There was reference to Vince Viviano. It was done after Ms. Young talked about the experience that she had watching the Macomb. It is Frank Viviano who is the supervisor, and Vince Viviano is a real person, but he's a trustee over in Shelby Township. So I was a little confused there, but other communities do find a way, but it's a two-way street, and it can't just be, the board responding to, just as you mentioned, pitchforks and lanterns, torches, and I'm not sure what you said, but basically angry, frustrated, and I'll take it because that's what I signed up to do. But the list that was presented, well, there's about 9 million more comments, but I would just start out with the very first comment that was made tonight. Mr. Monacotti, I think you're fair in your assessment that there's a lot of good things that are going on in this township. We didn't hear a lot of it from the podium tonight, but one thing that we did hear tonight was a resident was concerned about the 690 additional units that have been approved by the Planning Commission, and wondering how they will be inspected. But I think it misses the point that those units represent close to 1,000 people that are clamoring to get here, and they believe that this is a great place to raise their family, and we shouldn't just focus on those that constantly and perpetually throw grenades and talk about the dystopia that we are, because if we were, we wouldn't have concerns about thousands of new residents coming in to take a part of whatever it is that we have going on here. So I think you hit it beautifully. Plenty of room for improvement. We should always strive for continuous improvement. But this idea that this is some dystopian wasteland is an unfair criticism, and it's it's not warranted. And I appreciate you stepping up. You don't typically speak at the podiums, and your comments were, I think, very appropriate tonight. Thank you.
Trustee Ornberg.
I'm good, thank you.
Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I would agree with Trustee Joseph. The water rates that people currently pay are not quite reflective of how we are billed from Great Lakes Water Authority. I think that's sort of one of the things that he was saying. And we need to change that, and we need to do it in a more accurate way that reflects how they bill us, so that we can share that with you. And perhaps that needs to be changed from Gleeville, but right now we have to deal with what is our reality. But the bigger thing is, it's only fair and right that the information gets out a whole lot earlier so that we can all study that. I've seen some preliminary things, but then they were just determined that they needed to be worked on. That might be what some of the people here are referring to, I'm not sure. But I will do my best to make sure that we get information out earlier than 4 days before our next meeting. Thank you.
Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First and foremost, I'd just like to answer a question that we got in our office, and I think someone brought it up tonight as well. When we have a postponed item from a previous meeting, the accompanying attachments are not going to be on that next meeting. The attachments are the same as they were published when the item was originally published. So if you're looking for attachments or backup for an agenda item that's been postponed, go to the meeting that it originally appeared on, and all of the documentation will be there. We don't redo that, just so that you know that. We're not trying to hide anything, but just as a matter of procedure, postponed items, we don't republish the attachments because they've already been published once. Secondly, I'm glad that priority waste was here. I share a lot of the same concerns that all of you do. I was very disappointed. I understand their challenges, but at the same time, then what is the answer? I don't think that we can have months and months of substandard service and not be compensated. So I'd like to suggest, and I don't know if I'm going to be in these meetings with priority waste with Supervisor Kirsten, I may be, or it may be that the schedules don't work to that end, but what I'd like to suggest is perhaps a compensation of 1 month, the equivalent of 1 month's service, to be refunded to the residents on their, or show up as a credit on their invoice. I don't know exactly how that might work, but it's a suggestion that I think would be fair. I think residents have to see some sort of a financial credit on their bills for the inconvenience and for the substandard service that they've received to this point. So I'd like to suggest that. Secondarily, one of the things that I would also support in the event that it came to this board is a proposal to be put in front of the voters at next year on the ballot as to whether they want to continue having a single waste hauler, or if they would rather be able to procure their own. Now, back when that conversation was taking place more than 15 years ago, there's reasons why a single waste hauler was chosen. Is that the case now? I have always personally been an advocate for allowing individuals to have the free market available to them. I've never liked a single waste hauler, but perhaps others feel as I do, or if the majority wants to continue with a single waste hauler, just know that these are some of the challenges that we face, and I think it was a very fair assessment by members who spoke tonight of some of the challenges when dealing with a single waste hauler. But that conversation can be had at that time, but I would certainly support putting that on the ballot in front of the voters to reevaluate if you still want to continue with a single waste hauler here in Chesterfield. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
A lot to cover tonight. Mr. Monacotta, thank you for your words. That's people like you are exactly why I stay focused and try to continue on improving the township across the board, and I will bring whatever issues that I find are valuable to the township back to the board for discussion, whether they be paving projects, sidewalk projects, or otherwise. Anything that improves this community and enhances it and makes it better. That's my space, and that's where we work. In regards to several comments made about our financial well-being in the township, when the auditors were here, we closed out the books. There really is nothing left to be said to the napkin math individuals that come to the podium. Can't even address them because they have no clue. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. In front of you on priority waste, we'll continue to manage, we'll continue to engage. I'll wait to hear individually from board members as to how you want to approach the letter that you were presented with tonight, and see how we move forward. The unfortunate side of priority is they are a vendor for the next 3 years, and regardless, unless we want to engage in a legal battle, We have to manage them. I am also proposing to you publicly, the board members publicly, is the current contract that we are under needs complete revision. I believe, and if the clerk wants to put it on a ballot for discussion, to return to a mass of garbage trucks flooding the township to service individual waste haulers, again, it's totally up to the residents. That whole approach is problematic, and there's problems that come with it. Number one, we have private streets, we have private roads, we have underweight bridges, we have isolated areas that you can't get a fire truck down and turn around, let alone a garbage truck. So all those considerations need to be considered, or at least discussed publicly and openly, and see, again, what the residents want. The water rate presentation, again, that's solely on me. We went through an exercise last month. I don't want to go it again. You are going to get a detailed presentation from a reputable company, whether you like them or not. I don't know why anyone would speak bad about them. There's no interaction with them other than what they come here to the board and provide us with their expertise. We moved it back because the deeper we dive, this is a long historical problem. Trustee Joseph, I think you picked on it, but we're trying to right a wrong and maybe not a wrong, but just an evolution of how the water bills have been presented here in the township to the residents. And as Trustee Vosberg indicated, spot on, we are attempting to align the rates that with our current water and sewer providers, who we don't have a choice. GLWA provides the water here, whether we like them or not. They dictate the rates. We have to go along with them to a certain degree. We have to manage our network and system, and that's what we do. Has been presented several times, we do not invest enough money in our antiquated system, our antiquated water system, our antiquated sewer system, some of it which is 70 plus years old, and that has to be addressed. And while I'm sitting here, we will continue to create that capital plan and move it forward. And whether the board chooses to invest in the water and sewer system or the rates, that's totally up to the board, and we move on. Mr. Perrick, the sidewalks, they are inspected. There is a review. That's what OHM does. There is an opportunity, if you as a resident choose to do the work yourself, you can. There's an opt-out provision. Again, the financial status of the township is we're very comfortable. We are progressing, and we'll continue to progress. As a resident said, yes, when you talk about anything here, whether it be waste management, you have to consider growth. And that is a discussion, whether it be a planning, whether it be just a daily operation, anything any topic that comes up, you have to discuss where we're gonna be in 3 to 5 years. And we do that. We consider that. Priority waste, those conversations have occurred with them. We let them know how many homes are in the pipeline and how we are growing. Again, the waste management network is problematic and has changed drastically in the last 3 years alone. The police department, the lack of support for the police department from one resident just continues to baffle me. I don't know where he comes with. We have an accredited, well-funded, well-staffed, well-equipped public safety department, both police and fire side. Those continued attacks on me they're again from almost unhinged individuals. With that being said, we do have a closed session scheduled tonight, so I will make a motion to go into closed session if there's any support. Pardon me? For, Clerk Barry, you want to read it?
Item 14A is a closed session for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement pursuant to Section 8(1)C of the Open Meetings Act.
Supervisor Kirsten will make a motion to go into closed session. Is there any support?
Support.
Clerk Barry. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Anderson. Trustee Joseph. Trustee Hornberger.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Adjourn for closed session at 9:33. And it's to the right, the room to the right there.
Maybe instead of shaming the residents for not paying attention, you guys could put water rate information on top
Supervisor Kirsten will make a motion to return to open session
Second?
at 10:16. Supported by Clerk Berry. Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson. Trustee Joseph. Trustee Hornberger. Trustee Vosberg.
Supervisor Kirsten will make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, 10:16.